All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSim's DFS Office Hours. Today is Monday, April 14th of 2025. And looking ahead here, we have an 8-game MLB main slate as well as a 6-game NHL main slate. No NBA until tomorrow when the play-in starts. So that'll be super fun. But for those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Andrew. I'm one of the coaches over here at SaberSim. This is a show where we go over how to use the SaberSim app, answer any and all DFS related questions. Get your questions in one of three ways here. First off, send us an email, support@sabersim.com. Second, post it live in the YouTube chat. Third way, post it in the Office Hours channel in our Discord server. If you're not in our Discord and want to get access to that channel, there is a link in the description of this video. You also get access to our similar channels, individual sport channels, and you get access to the rest of the SaberSim teams. Can't say enough good things about the Discord. But with that said, we do this show Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and then we do this show on Saturdays at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So tune in any one of those days, get your questions answered. It is Monday here, and with the birdie battle officially kicking off here on a Mondays, we're going to be announcing the winners for our weekly prizes. So birdie battle started this week. Was a super fun tournament. I know I was definitely watching on Sunday as Rory won the playoff. So that was pretty crazy ending with first going to the playoff and then winning in the first hole of the playoff. So that was super fun. As far as the giveaway here, we actually had somebody attend the Masters. Shout out Remy Toes from last year, taking down the free roll and attending Saturday and Sunday at the Masters. I'm sure he had a great time and his +1, but for this year, we're doing it again, right? Giving away 2 tickets to next year's Masters. Birdie Battle did start this week. So we got to announce the top finisher winner for this week, as well as our random entrant winner for who will be getting tickets to next week's birdie contest. And then as a reminder, everybody who participated, all 196 people on this list, I'll post a link to this list in Office Hours and pin it in the channel so you guys can check it out. But everybody on this list will get a SaberSim hat for participating this specific week. But for our top finisher of the week, Rufus Jones, taking 10th place, 539 points, is going to be getting 2025 Masters swag, as well as an entry into our end of the season Masters free roll. Congratulations, Rufus. And for our random entrant, person who is going to be getting free entry into next week's contest, I have grabbed all of the 195 names here on this page of the people who participated, and I've dropped them into our trusty wheel of names here, or 196 actually. Going to click shuffle a couple times, and we're going to spin this and see who wins. So while that spins, give me 1 second. All right, Jared 4242 is our winner for this week. Let me see if I can type in here. Jared 4242 looks right. Yep. And Jared will be getting the free ticket. So appreciate everybody who participated this week. Nice to have a lot of names on that list. Again, our support team will reach out to everybody on that list, letting you guys know about your free hat. I don't know if that's going to come at the beginning of the season or at the end. We'll kind of get that figured out. But for the winners for this week, Rufus and Jared, our support team, will reach out to you guys as well, letting you know how to claim your prizes. So thanks for participating, everybody. We'll do this every Monday for every week on the schedule here. Do not miss the RBC Heritage teeing off later this week if you're going to go for the full schedule of prizes. So it looks like we have the Heritage, and then we take a week off because we're not going to do the Zurich Classic, but then we'll be back for the CJ Cup. So looking forward to lots of winning screenshots and logos in the birdie contest. All right. With that said, let's jump over to SaberSim and get SaberSim up, and then we'll jump in to questions. All right, got SaberSim coming up now. So as far as questions go, let me take a quick peek here. All right. No questions in the queue at the moment. So we're going to start with the slate demo. So we do have two sports of action today, right? And MLB and NHL. We're going to be looking at this 8-game MLB slate for today. So whenever I queue up MLB, I like to go and check out the Roto Grinders weather dashboard, right? Just see what's going on here. Washington Pitt, I think, is on the early slate. So it's like a 2-game early, which is like basically before, or 2-game turbo before 7:00 Eastern. So they're not on the slate, so not super important. Giants Philly, bit of a race against the clock. Storms will arrive around 10 p.m. with the game starting at 6:45. That should give us plenty of time to play ball. If storms happen to arrive early, late inning trouble is possible. Okay, yeah, I wouldn't do too much with that info, but it doesn't look like that game's on this slate either. So these are like the two early games that appear. So everything can start at this Royals Yankees. That seems about right. All right. Same storm line as Philly, except here you've got an extra hour. Should be more than enough time. Okay. Not super concerned. Mets, Twins, a decent amount of rain around, but I'm optimistic they play ball one way or another. We'll need a radar check pregame to have a bit better idea of what's up. Cold, but winds ripping through at 20 miles per hour to right center. Ripping out. Interesting. Sometimes when you get something like this, I might actually just like go down and look at it. So like, okay, yeah, rains are going out, but like it's raining, it's like cold. These are not like good conditions like at all here. But he doesn't say much about like a in-game delay or anything like that. So I might like go and check pictures out. Where was it? I think it was Mets, Minnesota. Yeah. Go to pictures. Okay, it's like decent ownership on these guys, right? 16%, 10%. How do they match up like on the slate? A couple other guys, right? Scooble, May, Cease, Gray, Baz. I mean, it looks like there's just like a lot of good pitching options today. So I don't know how I'd handle it here. I would probably just like leave them in the player pool and then so I'm making notes, right? Ryan Holmes, check exposure. It could be a spot where I'm just like, hey, I just kind of want to match here and not get too weird, but I don't want to like full fade or anything like that. All right, Houston, St. Louis, drop in rain, possible pregame / early game. Won't fully rule out a late start, but I don't expect it. Winds out to right at 10 miles per hour. Okay, so late starts aren't as concerning as like in-game delays. That's like when pitchers, get pulled and stuff. So the biggest thing to be aware of is like how we're handling pitchers in the Mets, Minnesota. Not to say we're worried about it postponing or anything, but we do kind of want to manage our exposure to those pitchers probably a little bit. At least I do. So here, I'm just going to build 500 lineups. One thing I've been noticing, right? We've been doing some contest flashbacks of MLB, season started. We're doing that show every week, right? On Fridays. Minimum salary of like some of the best lineups has been a little bit higher. So I might bump this up to like 49,000, just kind of see how it does. Aside from that, I might just set like a small projection filter for pitchers. Just say my proj greater than 5. Make sure to uncheck all the batters. Just so I don't have to see them, right? Looks like Senzatella is the last pitcher here. Starting pitcher, right? All these guys with like 80-point projection. If you don't have this, regular projection is fine. See, I bet the Dodgers are like a huge favorite today, considering Senzatella is starting and is projected for like 6 points. So you can also go to team stacks, right? Sort by projected runs. Yeah, Dodgers 5.7, and then a big drop to 5.1, 4.9 from there. Okay, so far so good. Just getting a feel for the slate, right? Trying to figure out how pitcher ownership is shaking out, how projected runs look, how weather looks, right? All of this is just getting familiar with the slate, trying to get a sense of the slate dynamics for today, really before we do anything, right? So I'll kick off the build right now, but now would be a good time to go upload an entry file, bring one in. It would be a good time to, set up your contest sims, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to use the default one that we have here, but kick this build off. Analyzing can take a little bit, so just give it a second. It's just related to this being like a correlation heavy sport, but lineups are building right now, so didn't have to wait too long there. And I'm going to move some columns around a little bit. All right, this contest sim should kick off on its own in a second. All right, I think I have it on. Yeah, run contest sim automatically after build is on. Sort by exposure. Let's open this up a little bit. Okay. So contest sim ran, right? That's why you hover over the globe and says last sim time, 30 seconds ago, whatever. So that ran, that's great. We are sorting by the contest ROI for that manual contest sim. Now, what I would do is I don't really need this average salary. I think we were using that for something else. But I do like to have my average projection, average ROI, aggregate metrics. So sorting right, have the right aggregate metrics that I personally like. Let's say we're building 20 lineups here. And I'm sorting by exposure, right? I got my exposure. I got my leverage. I do like to have pool. I think pool could be a good one just to like reference. So pool. And I'm ready to start analyzing this, okay? So a couple different ways to do this. I just like to look in the all tab and just see if I have high leverages or not. So just simply, pitchers, batters, all around, right? I see a lot of big leverages, 47, 47, 39, 31, 32. This would just tell me like, hey, let's just crank up uniques and let's flatten this out, right? I'm somebody who will just like, okay, how many players in this lineup? Okay, there's 10. Let's just go half, right? And then I would automatically just kind of jump from 1 to 5. It's just something I've noticed works, right? So like when I'm at 1, my ROI is 123 and my projection is like 90.8. And then when I go to 5, my ROI goes down to 118. So down 5% and then projection down 0.5%. This flattens out a lot of my exposures, right? Doesn't flatten them all out. Looks like we can go like a little bit further, but this is just a way of getting a lot, getting closer to where I want to be a lot faster. Okay. And then at 1 unique, we're at 66 players in the player pool. And then at 5, we are at 86, right? So we've added 20 players to the player pool here, definitely getting more exposure to more players and not really sacrificing that much in terms of aggregate metrics to do so, right? So I think that's a really good thing to do. Even if I crank it up to 6, players get up to 90. Projection and ROI is still really, really similar to where we started. I think this is great, right? So now if you want, you could probably start looking at this like a little bit more of like a fine-tooth comb, looking at like batters individually and then looking at pitchers separately. So here, right? Some leverage to batters. It looks like we're mostly getting to like the Mets. We're getting to the Dodgers. Those like the 2 teams that like we're kind of targeting here. Couple different ways to handle this, right? You could keep trying to go with uniques. We can just see what going to 7 does. So 7 seems okay too, right? Now we're super flat at batters, no more than 25% to any one batter, which seems okay, So I don't mind this. I don't mind 7. 7's like a really high number here, but it seems to be working out pretty well on the batter side. When we go over to the pitchers, seems like we really like Baz. We're just like holding a high exposure to him and then kind of flat there otherwise, right? A little under on Cease. But, I don't mind it, right? I've talked about like I like to use value when it comes to pitchers, and, he's tied for like the highest value pitcher on the slate, right? So I think it's okay to get to Baz here. I think the reason we're getting to more Baz than Sonny Gray is just because Gray is projected for more ownership because he's like slightly higher projected. So you just get like more raw points, but I don't mind this 50% exposure to Baz here. It doesn't feel that bad. You could change it if you want, manually change his max exposure, but I kind of like this. So I've kind of verified I like batters. I like pitchers. Go check my stacks. Okay. 4 4s, 5 2, 5 3, 4 2, 4 3, 4 2 2, 5 1 1 1. So everything has at least a 4 stack in it, which is good enough for me. Our highest exposed batter team is the Dodgers and the Mets, which we kind of saw that in the batter section. So we're getting to the highest projected run team, and then we're taking some shots on like some middle of the pack projected run teams, but we're really not getting to too concentrated on any of these lower teams. You know, we have a little bit 5, 10, 15 on some of these teams under 4 projected runs. You could adjust these if you want. I like to look at the pool exposure here. You know, like we are getting in some Houston, we are getting some Milwaukee, right? We are getting some Chicago. So taking a couple shots on those teams doesn't bother me too much, considering you have, you know, this many lineups with them in your pool. Now, if these pool exposures were, you know, 1%, 2%, and you're getting like 15 or something like that, I might consider dropping that. But here for me, feels okay. So here, right, what I've done is I've used uniqueness and aggregate metrics. And then from there, I go and I look at batters, I look at pitchers, I look at stacks, I look at team stacks, just kind of verifying my risk, making sure I'm happy with everything. And then once I am, you know, I'm ready to rock and roll, right? So from here, I would save these lineups and I'd be ready to play them. So that's kind of the approach that I would be taking today, building lineups for the main slate. But question from Kevin. Kevin said, heard Jordan mention simming a build against itself and using that as a sort method while using the normal contest sim as a guardrail with a filter of hiding if negative ROI in the normal sim. Could you show an example of this? Yeah, so this is like an older concept, probably from like last MLB season if you were watching some older videos. So this idea is not something that we recommend anymore. And the main reason for it is because the way the contest sim used to work made this a good idea. Because what would happen is each lineup in your pool, you know, you have 500 lineups, right? We would put each contest into the contest sim one at a time. So we would run lineup 1 in a behind the scenes contest with the field lineups, which make up the ownership projections. And then we would play that out 100,000 times, right? And then we would return the ROI for that lineup. And then we would do that for lineup 2, lineup 3, for all the lineups in your pool, right? The problem was, you know, a lot of times you're not entering one lineup into a contest. You're entering 20, you're entering 150. So you were losing this, the correlation component of your lineups, like your lineups fighting for contest equity against each other, kind of working together. How concentrated is your portfolio? So we started using this idea like, well, if you also sim your build against itself, you're going to figure out which lineups are the best between each other. We made updates to the contest sim after this concept came out. We're like, hey, you know what? We should just like account for this for our users so they don't have to. Okay. That is now being accounted for via this user entries column in the sim setting. So now what we're saying is like, hey, I'm playing this contest and I am entering this many lineups into the sim. So now the way it works, right? We're still simming your build 100,000 times, but each time we sim your build, we are taking a different set of 150 entries and we are putting those together as like your lineups and then playing those out. So over a really, really big sample size, all the ROIs kind of get smoothened out for like all the different combinations of like the 150. So that's what's happening now. This is why we don't recommend doing that anymore, is because we are specifically taking that into account for you. Now, if you wanted to, right, all you would need to do is run a build like our build 1 has lineups, right? Okay, then you go to the field lineups, you go to this drop down, you go to builds, you change your field lineup source to build 1, and then you go back to your build and then you rerun the contest sim. So that is how you would do it, but it is not our recommendation to do it anymore because we specifically made updates to try and account for this for you so you don't have to. Kevin said, good to know, just came back from a year break from DFS and was catching up on old content. Thanks for clearing that up. Yeah, no problem at all. And, you know, I think it's good to like watch some of those old videos. There definitely are like some nuggets and concepts that are still relevant and can still be applied in, you know, DFS in 2025. So happy to clarify that. Definitely a good question there. But I think we are all caught up with questions in both the YouTube chat, Discord. We announced the winners for the birdie battle for this week. Our support team will reach out to you guys, and we did a slate demo. So appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern for our next show. So until then, everybody, take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.